Hello, everyone. This is another Black Conservative. I'm Ryan Boland. Thank you all for joining me. So, a Republican office in Florida was vandalized with the word spray painted onto the windows that said ESHIT fascist, you fascists. Now, I wonder who did this. You know, we're talking about the fascists, right? Who really are the fascists here? So let's get into this article. I'm going to give you my opinion on who I think the real fascist is. But let's get right into this article. It's a pretty short article, and the article starts off with this. A Republican Party campaign office, in Florida was reportedly vandalized over the weekend with spray-painted words that read, quote, "Eat S fascists," and featured an anarchist symbol. Republican National Committee (RNC) Chairwoman Ronnie McDaniel blasted President Joe Biden and other Democrats for their divisive language in a statement released after the vandalism occurred. And this is terrible. You know, it has these terrible spray painted words over it. It's pretty terrible, but I'm going to get into that. He says, Biden and Democrats promised to unite our country, but that was just another blatant lie from the radical left, McDaniel said. Republicans will not be silenced by cowards. Harmful rhetoric and disgusting acts like this will only make us work harder to propel Republicans to victory come November. The vandalism on the Republican office building came just days after Biden labeled Republicans who support former President Donald Trump as semi-fascists. Okay, so I'm just going to read what he says here, and I'm going to get into my narrative. What we're seeing now is the beginning of the death knell of an extreme MAGA philosophy. It's not just Trump. It's the entire philosophy that underpins the whatever that's supposed to be. I don't know. I'm going to say something. It's like semi-fascist, Biden told his supporters at a fundraiser last week. And that's all I'm going to read right there. I'm not going to read more. You can read the rest of that because it's pretty straightforward in what's being said. So it's the same thing all the time. Anyway, you can read the rest of that article on your own free time. I'll leave a link to it in the description box below, www.breitbartnews.com. You can go to them, read, look up the title of the article, and you can read on your own. But let me say something right off. In all fairness, whenever there's campaigning going on and the elections are drawn near, whether it's midterm election on a local, state, federal level, or the presidential election, both political parties are going to sling mud at each other. Republicans are going to sling mud at the Democrats. The Democrats are going to swing mud at the Republicans. And that's been going on for decades. That's nothing new. This always happens. This mudslinging intensifies the closer you get to the actual elections or whatever, whether it's midterm elections or whether it's federal, or whether it's presidential elections. What I want to talk about is the whole idea of fascism, right? Okay, whoever spray painted this Republican office with the words "Eat S fascists" clearly was radical liberals. Okay, it clearly was radical liberals. And here's the deal. If you do a little history of fascism under people like Mussolini and people who called the dictator Adolf Hitler fascist, if you really do some history on them, you'll find out and understand that true fascism is very oppressive. And what I mean by that is if you dissent in any way to what their narrative is or what they are trying to push, you will be hauled off to jail or even killed. Violence will be initiated against you because it's a fascist government. Now, what I find interesting about these individuals that follow the radical left is they keep calling people on the right and people like Trump as fascists. But I have not seen once, and I'm going to keep saying this, I have not seen any acts of violence initiated by the so-called fascist right. It's always the radical left that initiates acts of violence or vandalism against the fascist right. So who really is fascist here? Is it those on the radical left or those on the right? Not saying those on the right are perfect, but who's really the vandalizers here? Who are really the violent people here? Who should the American people be afraid of? Who should the American people be fearful of? Who should the American people be looking out for? The conservatives or the radical left? Because every single time, it never fails. Every single time it's the radical left. Bring up a contending argument, if you will. But I have not seen any. It's always been the radical left. Now, what people will say, well, you know what? What about January 6th? Man, come on. Radical left will always mention January 6th as their little sidebar. Come up with something better than January 6th, man. If they have to come up with January 6th as the way to push this idea that those on the left are fascists, then you run out of arguments. You run out of talking points. Because most people, from what I understand, most people in America don't believe in the January 6th thing. They went past that. They didn't forget all about January 6th. The only reason that most people will even remember January 6th is because the Democrats keep mentioning it, because that's all they have. They don't have nothing else but January 6th. So my question is, once again, who should the American people be concerned about? Mr. Joe Biden, who should the American people be concerned about? Should they be concerned about the fascist people on the right or the radical people on the left? Because what I'm seeing time and time again is vandalism and acts of violence committed by those on the left. What's going on here? What's going on here? The way I see it, those on the radical left are nothing more than tools for the Marxist infiltrators who have infiltrated this country from day one, and they're trying their best to put groups against each other in order to destroy the interior concepts of this country, tear it down, reshape it again into a communist country. That's what I see. That's what I see. That's what I hear on my job. I don't see anything. I don't see this coming from anybody from the right. Now, am I saying that people from the right, and just hear me on this. Am I saying that people on the right are not committing acts of violence, are not overly zealous in what they do? I'm not saying that. I'm pretty sure that there are people who consider themselves to be conservatives are overzealous about their worldviews. But when I think about overzealousness, I'm thinking about very passionate. Like, people may describe me as passionate. Like, on my job, the former coworker that I had, he's gone to put all his focus on his business. But I was explaining to him, why I became a conservative. And I was explaining to him the difference between Republicans and Democrats, the liberals and the conservatives and that type of thing, the normal political thing. And I was explaining to him what a lot of Democrats have been doing and are doing. And I was explaining to him the history of the Democratic Party in reference to how they had actually truly treated blacks in the past and how they're treating blacks today. And he said, the thing that I like about you is your passion. He said, you're very passionate about what you believe in. And I'm like, well, yeah, I'm passionate, but I pray that I'm giving facts as well. My passion derives from what I believe to be true. I believe this to be true, so I'm passionate about it. So I speak passionately about it. But being passionate about something doesn't necessarily ensue violence. A person can be passionate about a whole bunch of things. That doesn't mean they're going to be violent. Many preachers are very passionate about the way they preach. When I'm preaching and teaching the Bible, I'm very passionate. But that don't mean I want to kill somebody or cut their head off or commit acts of violence. I'm just very passionate about what I'm trying to communicate. Why? Because I believe it to be true. And I'm trying to press my point. So once again, my passion comes out when I talk about who's the real people, initiators of violence and vandalism here. The radical left or the so-called fascists that Biden, or what he saw, semi-fascist. What the heck is a semi-fascist? Man, come on, man. Come on. They're running out of things to do. The Democrats are running out of ways to describe those on the right. So they have to use this idea of fascism. But I'm pretty sure that a lot of people simply don't even know what fascism is, or what the history of fascism is, or what it actually entails. But all they know is it must be something bad, because Biden and the rest of the Democrats keep throwing it out there. Fascism, fascism, fascism. Woo, 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 woo. So people, because they don't take the time to say, let me read up on this and see what's going on, a significant number of people don't know. They're ignorant of what it really is all about. So they go with the flow. They go with whatever Biden or any of these other Democratic politicians spit out at them. But the reality, history is reality, man. And as I said earlier, in any real fascist government, if you disagreed or dissented against what the government said, you was hauled away and killed or put in jail at the very least. So where is the violence here? Where is the ensuing fear here? Why are people being afraid of those on the right? Is it because they're violent? I haven't been seeing it. Please put it in the commentary section and describe to me some people who claim to be on the right that are violent or initiating acts of violence. And let me end the video on this. I said this before. Self-defense is not the same as initiating violence. Self-defense is self-defense. Okay, Kyle Rittenhouse was defending himself. So let us not mention him. That was self-defense. It's when you initiate acts of violence against the opposing party or someone who disagrees with your worldview. That's the problem. When you initiate these acts of violence. The communists did it in Cuba. They did it in Russia. They did it in China. They didn't express their views politically. They just came in with guns blazing and machetes swinging, and blood was spilled. That was always the radical left. Oh, yeah. We could know that's another video all by itself. But hey, that's what I wanted to say about this. Who I want to end the video on that note. Who are the individuals that American citizens should really be taking note of? The radical left or the so-called semi-fascists that Biden said? Evidence shows me it's the radical left. That's just the way I see it. What do you guys think? Leave your comments in the comment section below. Like, share, and subscribe to this channel. God bless you all, and see you again.